Greetings, this is the man who pretends to be Charles Darwin, and I'm speaking to you from Strasbourg, France, and I am at the equestrian statue of Saint Joan of Arc, Joan d'Arc as they call her here. She lived from about 1412 until 1431, when she was condemned as a heretic, burned at the stake. Now, at the time that she lived, her brief 19 years, the English dominated France, and during the 100 Years' War, France fought back and a few decades later won the 100 Years' War and were free from the domination of England. Joan d'Arc was a peasant girl, uneducated, but she insisted that the Archangel Michael and Saint Margaret and Saint Catherine told her to save France from the English. And she also insisted on the coronation of Charles VII. And at the time, a French army was being under siege at Orléans, and she led them to a victory. And then she led them to a series of victories. Eventually, however, she was captured by the English, and she was put on trial and burned at the stake at the age of 19. Now, the point that I'm trying to make in this series of videos, and in this video in particular, is the role of religion and how it's different from the role of science as a way of knowing. Now, Joan of Arc claimed divine authority, and she was very convincing. Apparently, she had quite a personality. So she was able to convince a lot of people, including Charles VII, that she had been spoken to by two saints and by an archangel, saying that she should lead armies to victory over the English. What evidence did she have? Well, we know that she had a private conference with the man who became King Charles VII a little bit later, and that somehow she convinced him. It was a private conference, so we don't know what she said, but we do know that she had very little evidence. But you see, religious claims do not need evidence. Now, some religious beliefs claim that they have evidence, and I'm not saying that those are stupid. I'm not saying anything necessarily about them, but I am making the point that religious claims do not require evidence. All they need is assertions by a credible person, and usually, in order for the person to be credible, the person has to be absolutely sincere, and they have to have not the slightest shadow of doubt about what they're saying. And so, this being said, a crazy person could start a religious movement. And some people say that's exactly what Joan of Arc was. They say that she was schizophrenic, and that would explain the little voices that she heard in her head telling her to lead the French army to victory. But I read something different in a book one time, saying that what she had was Meniere's disease, which is a disease of the inner ear, and that can also make you hear little voices. But the little voices would, instead of being from inside your brain, they would be from inside your inner ear. We don't know. She didn't know. The point is that scientific way of thinking, we have to get verifiable evidence that somebody else can see other than just you. So it doesn't depend upon your assertion, but rather it depends upon verifiable and reproducible data. And that's one of the differences between religion and science, and that's still causing problems in the world today as we continue to have lots of controversies. This is the man who pretends to be Charles Darwin. Tally ho, and I'm him.